was missing me, but that's okay. Let's get we'll get a little bit of information out of the way, I guess. I have finally gotten my own place, so I will be able to make content more, and that will be a variety of things once I figure some of it out. But enough about me. We are here to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. So the finale came out today. Hopefully I'm able to upload this the same day that it came out. So obviously I haven't been doing episode to episode reviews. That's just kind of because, like I said, I just moved out, as well as it started while I wasn't moved out yet, and so we're still kind of getting a little bit of rhythm on things. So we're just going to do an overall season review, pretty much. I'm not going to be able to recount the episodes exactly too well, but I am going to talk specifically about the finale, since it just came out and I just got done watching it. Anyway, moving on from that conversation. So I guess we'll talk about the finale, and we'll do a quick little rundown. I assume if you're listening to this, you've been keeping up with the Book of Boba Fett and all this other stuff, and so you're not too confused about the situation, I guess is the word to use. But ultimately, so I should have prepared a little. We'll just talk about the finale, and then I'll go ahead and talk about the season as a whole from episode 1 to now. So the finale starts off after the bombing that we saw in last week's episode at the Sanctuary. And we've got Din, Finnick, and Boba all sitting there, and, different, Boba's little friends like the Gamorreans and the Mods and Chris Anton are keeping eyes on all the different locations and everything like that. And then, things go sideways, and, things don't go sideways immediately, but Cad Bane shows up, does a little bit of a threat, and then things go sideways. I'm sorry, I'm missing my mic. Things go sideways a little bit, and all of his people get attacked. The Gamorreans are unfortunately killed. Because I liked them, I thought they were cool. They were the first people to kind of be on his side. But I guess it kind of adds to the stakes a little bit. So they all get tagged. They're betrayed by the families that Boba tried to have, stay neutral in the fight. Obviously, they did not. And they ended up attacking them. Finnick goes off to save the Mods, and then go to Mos Eisley to assassinate the leader of the Pikes, as well as who ends up being there, surprisingly, the mayor. But we'll get to that, since that's technically at the end of the episode. So Boba and Din have a fun little fly around after causing a distraction. They're fighting some Pikes. I thought that part was really cool, to see Boba flying through the air and single-shotting dudes, and then they get shot down a little bit. I will say, one of the more unbelievable things is the fact that... So Din, we have seen multiple times get shot down, but he has his Beskar, so he's fine. Boba also has Beskar, but he doesn't have the Beskar on his legs, or I guess his kneecaps could have Beskar. But the fact that nobody shot Boba right in the leg was kind of unbelievable. But other than that, the scene was pretty good. And then we also get the slightest reference, and they had me for a second, I'm not gonna lie. It took a while for them to convince me, but so Freetown, or was it Mos Pago? Something like that. They show up and start helping. They bring the numbers and everything like that, as well as the Mods show up. And this is after Bane talked to Boba and was like, oh, they're not coming, which is obviously a misdirect, and claims that he killed the sheriff, or the marshal, which is weird, because I thought in the last episode he said he was the sheriff, but in this episode they kept calling him the marshal. It's just a weird semantic thing, but and yes, there is a difference. I would know because I have family that watch westerns and stuff like that, and so I would understand if people my age don't know the difference. but since it's like an old Western thing, you know. Anyway, so yeah, Freetown shows up. They're like, "Oh, sorry about the sheriff," and they're like, "No, he took him down in cold blood," and blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Oh my god, did they actually kill Cobb Vanth?" They had, like I said, they had me, but we'll get to it. Especially since he doesn't appear throughout the actual episode. Anyway, but they fight, and then we have some like weird spider-looking droids. I think the God damn it, I wish I could process everything. We'll actually tangent real quick because I think it tangented in the story, anyways. So we go back to Pelly at her shop, and an X-wing shows up. Obviously, it's Luke's X-wing, and I was like, "Are we really gonna shoehorn Luke into this finale too?" We're not. R2D2 flew Grogu to Tatooine, and hands him to Pelly to take to Mando. And when she shows up, they're still fighting the little spider droid things, which I can't remember what she calls them, but she gave them like a name. I don't know if she was just like being generic or something, but due to the fact that she has a primarily droid like pit crew, I would assume that she knows her droids. Anyway, so they show up, they start attacking everyone who's left. Boba and Din kind of stay behind to like distract them while everyone else gets away. Oh, I guess I should say Chris Antan showed up after making it look like he was gonna die, but then he didn't, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. Because he got like tackled by a bunch of Trandoshans, and they like piled up on him, and then it like cut away. I'm like, well, none of them were stabbing him, and then he comes back and he's limping, and then he's getting shot a bunch. I was like, so did he survive getting dogpiled just to come back and die being shot? But he makes it through. Spoiler alert. Don't worry, guys. Black Chrysanthemum will live on. But yeah, so everyone's running away while Boba and Din are dealing with the spider droid things that just happen to have shields similar to a droideka. But we also see that they're not similar to a droideka in that explosives still don't penetrate them. And I guess Din was still attacking it pretty quickly, but he just outright says that energy weapons don't affect, which we have seen before. Oh, actually, that's right. You have to walk through the shield and then turn the lightsaber on, like Ahsoka and Anakin have done. And like also Rex in the Clone Wars. We've seen them fight droidekas by just like simply going through the shield and then killing them. But that didn't happen in this situation because it's also like pressure sensitive essentially. And we see Chrysanthemum like walk up to one and puts his hand against it, and it starts to weaken a little bit. And so Boba flies away, Din's still like distracting him, then Pelly and Grogu show up in a whole situation. And we finally get to see Boba riding his Rancor, and that Rancor is pretty spry one, which Danny Trejo said that it was young in the episode that Boba received it, so it makes sense compared to the other one. And they had a nice blend of puppeteering and CGI in this, I feel like, because the Rancor definitely had some original trilogy looks to it in some parts, as if it was a puppet. Then obviously they needed CG for the parts where it was like jumping around and stuff. And they kept making me think that that thing was going to die, and I was like, you can't kill the Rancor. And like the episode that it makes its big show off, which they didn't. But so the Rancor goes down there, and it's able to weaken the shield enough so that like it just like puts pressure on the shield because it's strong enough for Din to like walk through and then start cutting it up. And then Grogu helps a little bit too, and then ultimately the Rancor comes back and kills it. Same thing with the other one, because there was two of these droids. It shows up, throws it around a little bit, and then we get our little show off between Cad Bane and Boba, which people have been waiting for since the leaked Clone Wars unfinished reels. For those of you who don't know, because some people don't watch the Clone Wars for some reason, Boba and Cad Bane have known each other since the Clone Wars, and Cad Bane was training Boba to essentially be as good as Jango Fett so that Cad Bane could kill Jango Fett, because Jango was one of the best bounty hunters in the galaxy at the time, and Cad Bane's like own self-interest was like, if I kill him, or a version of him, then it'll definitively make me the best bounty hunter of all time. So he really wanted to kill Boba. They had a draw. They shot each other. They both landed blows at the same time, but neither of them were fatal, and I guess they just never talked to each other again. And so we get a reenactment of that scene a little bit. Cad Bane outdraws Boba, but he's wearing his armor, and Boba even says so. Because Cad Bane's like, you know you're not faster than me. He's like, yeah, but I've got armor, dude, come on. And so they exchange, or Cad Bane shoots Boba down and just keeps shooting him down as he's making his way over to him. And it was kind of obvious that this was going to happen, just because it was like, why else would he be carrying it? But when Boba goes to get the Rancor, he returns also with a gaffy stick. And I was like, well, he's going to use that for some reason. And when I saw him like dueling with Cad Bane, I was like, Cad Bane has been shown to be pretty good at hand-to-hand combat, but also he is older than Boba at this point. I mean, not at this point. In general, he is older than Boba, so if anyone would win a hand-to-hand fight, it would be Boba, especially since he has a gaffy stick, so I assume that's how he's going to win. And sure enough, Cad Bane takes his helmet off and is like about to shoot him in the face, and Boba does some sick moves to, you know, trip Cad Bane up, disarm him, and all this other stuff, and eventually kills him, which is not surprising, because I guess it, like, explains, you know, it'll help him not show up again. But it's a little disappointing, because I would have liked to see him, for some reason, appear in the Ahsoka show, since he has kidnapped her before, and now that she's not a youngling, and she's essentially a Jedi Master herself, even though she's not technically a Jedi, despite what happens in The Mandalorian and blah, 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 blah. But I don't think she cares about the semantics at this point, just because of the fact that, you know, the Jedi Order doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, it would have just been interesting to see Ahsoka and Cad Bane meet each other, maybe fight, but that's neither here nor there. Boba kills Cad Bane, symbolically killing his past as a bounty hunter, because Cad Bane's like, I knew it, you're still a killer, you're not settling down, and all this other stuff. You know, themes and all that junk. And, and then the Rancor goes on the loose. Grogu is able to tame it after it fights with Din for a little bit, and then it's pretty much done, kind of. Fennec shows up in Mos Eisley and kills the Pike leader, the mayor, and the leaders of the crime families, since they're all, you know, traitors of some caliber. I guess technically the Pike isn't actually the Pike is a traitor, because when Boba had the Tuskens kill the Pikes, he showed up and was like, we'll make a deal, and then he sent the Pikes to kill the Tuskens. So everyone's a traitor in that room. Anyway, Fennec kills them all, kind of just like snipping that tie, essentially, and then we cut to Boba and Fennec walking amongst the people. They're all like appreciative of him and everything like that, showing that he has successfully taken control of Mos Espa, which is cool. Glad that he got what the show was leading up to, you know. And then he goes and talks to his little crew, got credits, and then after credits we see that Cobb Vanth is in the back of the tank, and we see, I don't know his name, I know that he's a famous guitarist of some sort. I don't remember it, but he appeared in earlier episodes. I think it was episode 4 with the flashback of Boba saving Fennec. He popped up then to give her like metal stomach, and he's in this scene with Cobb Vanth, like starting up his knife. So Cobb Vanth's going to get some upgrades, which means he is going to be in a future show in some capacity. What that capacity is unknown, but they're not going to tease Cobb Vanth getting droid upgrades and then not give it to him. Or like, they're not going to tease him getting an upgrade and then not show him in the future, you know? Anyway. So I have been seeing a lot of people talking about the finale, and kind of with the finale, the show as a whole, including Joe, who, if any of you have seen, you know, old podcasts, you would know him. he was a little disappointed in it. He did say that there were good parts to it, but also he kind of admitted that he thought the show was pointless except for 5 and 6, since it was a Mandalorian story and all this other stuff. And the official Star Wars Instagram, and I assume their Twitter and stuff, posted a trailer for the finale, and it was like, witness the finale. And I went ahead and scrolled through the comments, and there were a lot of people that were like, disappointing, whole show was useless, blah blah blah. And then there's other people that's like, oh, sad it's over already, this show was amazing, the finale was an amazing episode, and blah 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 blah. And my opinion on it is that it was good, but it had flaws. And I think, I know a lot of people talk about this, people with higher clout than I, such as like Star Wars Explained. He says this almost anytime he reviews an episode, which is, you are entitled to your own opinion, and that's fine, but he doesn't really go into more specifics about that. And that is, you can be entitled to your own opinion, but you need to kind of water it down a little bit. Some people praise stuff too much for what it is. Like there's plenty of old movies that I like. Like, I liked Age of Extinction when it came out, kind of like relentlessly. And like, now, it's not bad. It's not as bad as people say it is. But it's definitely kind of like, kind of changed things that I don't like, but it still has good parts in it, and all this other stuff. I feel like people need to realize that. Because, again, there are people saying that the series as a whole was pointless, which I don't agree with, because I think it had a good theme of leaving stuff behind. It also shows a new future for Boba, so it explains why he's a hero now, as opposed to what he was before, where it's like, yeah, Boba's cool, but he's not a good guy. And them adding him to a story with the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, is like, well, how are you going to make this person, like, obviously people are pleased by him existing, but how do you make it to where it makes sense, and you're not, like, confused as to why this dude who was, like, a brutal killer is like, oh, I'm gonna do the good thing. Like, when he showed up in The Mandalorian Season 2 and was like, I'll make sure your little guy's safe if you give me my armor back. And then he gets the armor back, and Din's like, alright, see you later. And he was like, no, I'm gonna help you get back your baby. It was kind of like, well, why is that? Because he's not, like, he has honor, but at the same time, like, Din was like, well, you got it, and the kid's been taken, so I mean, there's not really any point right now. And, this kind of shows that, like, he was with people that had honor, and he kind of relearned how to be a more humane and moral person and care about people. And this show kind of showed that, with him leaving behind the past life of being a bounty hunter and everything like that. And so I think, and people have talked about how the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, showing up, like, having his own episode, does play into it, because he's trying, he's got to leave the life of bounty hunting and working for his little coven of Mandalorians. He's got to leave that life behind and become something more than that, like a caretaker for Grogu or the new Mandalore, since he has a Darksaber. And so that tied in thematically. I think there was too much stuff that connected directly to the Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett. That's my main complaint. None of it was bad. Like, all the Luke and Grogu stuff, if that was in, like, the first episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, no complaints. But they detracted from Boba Fett's story way too much, with Episode 5 and 6 just having too much of Din's plot in it, that ultimately it kind of set up the finale to be bad, kind of. And I think that if the finale was 2 episodes and the finale was actually next week on Episode 8, and we had a mix of, and everything in this episode was in, this week and next week, and then we mixed in some stuff that supposedly happened off screen, I think the finales would have been better, And for people who are saying that the story was pointless, like, what do you... It's like people saying that Rogue One was pointless, you know? Like, we know that they get the plans and everything in Episode 4, but, like, what's the point of watching Rogue One? What's the point of watching Solo? But those are good movies, you know? And, like, I like the series. I've liked every episode that's in it, but I can acknowledge the flaws. Which is why I'm not condoning the people who are like, this season was perfect, oh my god. Like, that's kind of how it was with the Marvel shows. The Marvel shows on Disney Plus have had some lackluster moments. But people still talk about them so highly like they're god tier content, but they're not. And that's okay. Like, I'm not saying that if you think that you're wrong, but you need to acknowledge the fact that there are flaws to them. And when something is bad, you need to acknowledge that there are things that are good about it. Like I said, when I was texting Joe, he was like, I didn't really like the episode, but it had good stuff in it. He liked the action in it. He just thought it was a little bit rushed and kind of weird. But he was still able to acknowledge that there was stuff that he enjoyed in it. And I don't even see people doing that. I see people who either love it uncontrollably or hate it with every fiber of their being. I don't really understand why that is. But it's like, people gotta... You just gotta find a middle ground, alright? Not everything's gonna be perfect, not everything's horrible. There are plenty of stuff I don't like that I go back and rewatch because it's got good stuff in it. I don't like the sequel trilogy, but admittedly, it has some good aspects in it. It's got good visuals in some parts. I like the fight between Kylo and Luke because I think it's kind of funny seeing like Kylo rageful and Luke kind of teaching him a lesson. I like, kind of the last quarter of The Rise of Skywalker just because Ben, one of my favorite characters of the trilogy, or Kylo, turns to the good side and then we get the space battle with all the people showing up, which admittedly that's kind of like eh. But, there's good moments in these franchises, or in these episodes and movies and everything. Just because you don't like them completely doesn't mean you have to hate every aspect of it. Like the Clone Wars, it took a lot of people a long time to get into the Clone Wars. It took a lot of people a long time to become a fan of Ahsoka Tano, one of the most favored characters at this point. And it's like, everyone's like, oh, I see all these people who just, it's ridiculous. I'm going to use Ahsoka as an example, not that I've already thrown in enough, but when Ahsoka came out, people hated her forever until at least season 3. People just could not get behind her. They admitted that there were some good things that she was in, but ultimately they just could not get behind her. And now everyone just fucking kisses her ass all the goddamn time. And it's like, you people are such fucking hypocrites. It just pisses me off to see stuff like that. And I don't want to be a gatekeeper or anything like that. But the Clone Wars came out when I was an actual child. And because of that, I didn't have the mental capacity to understand that Ahsoka was quote unquote a bad character. I have literally liked Ahsoka since the first time she appeared on screen in the Clone Wars movie. I like the Clone Wars movie. And it's I've been a fan of this character forever, and all these people were just shitting on it. So I had to be ashamed of the fact that I liked Ahsoka as a character this entire time because she never did anything so bad that would destroy my past of being a fan of her. And then now everyone's like, oh, Ahsoka's so amazing. She's one of the best characters. It's fuck off, dude. You people fucking hated her forever. And it's now that I'm older and I watch, I'm like, yeah, there's some moments where I'm like, Ahsoka, what are you doing? Come on. But the fact that people fucking hated her and now just love her uncontrollably, it's you guys are on both sides of the fucking spectrum and it pisses me off. Again, I don't want to be a gatekeeper about what you can and cannot like, but people are just so fucking hypocritical, and I hate that people are so one side or the other with things. If that's how you are, stop watching TV and stop watching movies. Watch just the news and be a boring fuck. I don't know what else to tell you. If you are going to be that easily swayed to such a strong emotion, then, you shouldn't be watching content like this because you're just going to get in fights about it. There's no other way to put it. Like, Avengers Endgame is one of my favorite movies of all time. Admittedly, it's kind of boring, though. Like, I don't know, that's just my 2 cents on it. Like I said, overall, I like the series as a whole. I kind of wish there was a little bit... Like, I like Din Djarin showing up. I just wish he wasn't in it as much as he was. Not because I don't like Din Djarin, just because it's not exactly his story. I think they detracted a little bit too much in this show to set up for season 3 of The Mandalorian, which is unfortunate for, like, Boba Fett as a character, and unfortunate for Tamora Morrison and Ming-Na Wen as actors. Because they're supposed to be the heads of this, and there's a whole episode where only one of the 2 main characters shows up, and it's for like 2 minutes, you know, and then the other one, they both show up in the same scene for about 2 minutes. So it's like in 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett, they have a combined runtime of 4 minutes, and so it's just kind of ridiculous in that sense. But ultimately, it was good. The story as a whole was good. I liked pretty much everything in this show. I did feel it was a bit rushed towards the end, but that's just because they detracted so much with Mando. And again, if you don't like it, that's fine. Just don't be a prick about it, is all I can say. And if you liked it, have some cognitive thought. Don't try and be like forcing the fact that it's a good show on people. And same thing, that if you didn't like it, don't go forcing the fact that it's quote-unquote a bad show on anyone. Have your opinions and just shut the fuck up. Have civil discussions. That's all I can say, really. But yeah, at the end of the day, I like the show and series as a whole. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I really have to say about the situation. And for any crossover demographics, I will be covering Peacemaker as a series next week. I might do a catch-up episode this week, so I don't have to talk about the series as a whole, but I'll probably just talk about the series as a whole. And then after that, I might talk about Uncharted and Batman and Moon Knight, and if I talk about Moon Knight, it will probably be episodic this time. I'm not going to do any, I'm not bringing back the Hazardous Intent podcast just because that involved other things beyond just doing reviews and stuff like that, and I can't really sit here and vamp for an hour and a half. I mean, I can, I've been here for half an hour, but still, that's kind of just because my train of thought is veering off. But more content should be coming related to reviews and stuff, as well as other things. I'm not going to be streaming, I want to do more game-related stuff, but I'm probably not going to be streaming. We'll see. We'll find out. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I see you next week for the Peacemaker review. Yeah, have a good time having civilized conversations.